final word in sports all across the state. You're listening to Sports Talk with your hosts, Phil Kornbluth, Will Pelagic, and the Professor Tom Hayes. You've been waiting all day. So join the show now by calling 800-956-7266.
Just stay together. Like you said, they made a little run there. And so just trying to, let them, continue to get the momentum. We had to make some plays on offense as well to get our defense, out of a bind right there.
I'd be in my mind like, I'm finna knock this boy out. I start drooling, boy. I'd be like, come on, slow him down a little bit. And then it happened. Jam slowed him down enough, so I just try to knock him out.
I like that.
Like that.
Like that.
And good evening, everybody. Welcome into Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network from downtown Columbia. Well, the Gamecocks have a little bit of cockiness going inside their program after the win over Florida.
Swag.
Yeah, a little bit of confidence going, I would say, and I think that bodes well for them a couple of weeks from now. We're in kind of a weird situation with both USC and Clemson playing FCS teams this weekend. Now, Wofford in particular is not a team to sniff at.
No.
They're very, very good. Triple option a couple of years ago, it was 3 or 4 years ago maybe, came to Columbia, played the Gamecocks really close. A late fumble cost them a chance at the upset. More recently, just 2 years ago, South Carolina played the Citadel in this situation. Of course, they were going through the transition of the interim head coach and all that, got beat by the Citadel. Now, the Citadel plays at Clemson, but the Bulldogs have been struggling here the last half of the season. The Terriers are on top of their game. So I say all this not to look past the games this coming week from a sports talk show standpoint, and we won't. But and I know that everybody's already starting to focus on the Palmetto Bowl in a couple of weeks.
Well, it's a weird thing. Somebody said this on our Twitter feed earlier today, and we were doing all this previewing of the two teams since they've basically concluded their pre-Palmetto Bowl FBS schedules. And one person said, USC's next game is against Wofford, and I'm saying that's only for the players. The players are the ones who can't overlook the opponent. The players are the ones who have to worry about, USC playing Wofford and Clemson playing the Bulldogs of Citadel. But for the fans, everybody's mind is on 7:30 a week from Saturday night.
Yeah.
Well, we talk about the South Carolina and getting ready for the Palmetto Bowl. But I tell you what, as we were talking in the office earlier, Nick Saban grabs the schedule. Look, I'm a new LSU coach. See, Wofford's on the schedule. Get them off. What scares you, if you're a fan, is not so much that you're playing a crazy offense, but some of those chop blocks you throw, and you wonder, wait a minute, our tackle is hobbling for some reason. Well, that's because you played those option teams before you played the Palmetto Bowl. I don't mind sharing the sugar, giving some wealth to the in-state schools, but option teams before the big game, I don't like it.
Here's my concern from the South Carolina perspective, and they have all the right on defense to feel swaggy like they want to be. It really should have been 28-13 the final. They had the busted play at the end of the game. I'm not going to fault them for that. There was a little bit of broken coverage on that. I'm not going to fault them for that. South Carolina should have blown out that Florida team. Florida sucks corn. They are bad.
They suck corn?
No, I'm saying sucks, corn.
Oh.
They are bad.
I didn't catch the comma.
Sorry. They are awful. That should have been – but here's the thing. South Carolina just does not have the ability with their offense to blow anyone out. So that's my concern going into this Wofford game is if South Carolina allows Wofford to hold on like they allowed Florida to hold on, you're going to be nervous sitting in Williams-Brice Stadium.
Yep. Pull your hands together. Take the hand off. That's how you beat Wofford. Run the football.
I am pissed at Clemson.
Of course you are.
You might have seen the tweet. People do not – I guess I've got to tweet more in a elementary manner. People just cannot understand when I tweet. I tweeted towards the end of the game as Clemson did not take a knee.
No.
And went in.
Well, they never do that.
And scored a touchdown.
I don't think I've ever seen them line up in a victory formation.
Happened to have taken Florida State, if you had followed the season and realized that Clemson does not cover double-digit spreads with regularity, and is sitting right there. You know, Florida State's going to lose by, as they were getting 16, they're going to lose by 10. All Clemson had to do was take a knee, and everybody would be happy. Clemson would get their division championship, their hardware. Dabo could still dance in the locker room and everything. And no, they had to go ahead and knock it in. And I blame Florida State too, because they should have stopped them. It was running. They ran it right up the middle, for crying out loud. So when I tweeted out people that Dabo made a lot of people mad because they didn't go into victory formation, wasn't talking about the actual game.
Yes.
I was talking about the wager.
Yes. Well,
A lot of people took, I say a lot, I'm sure, millions of people took Florida State.
Mm-hmm.
And the points, and this time Clemson covered, which is not Clemson-like.
Mm.
So that's what I was talking about in the tweet. That was a game that Clemson as well, much like USC. I mean, good gracious, they got to the 1-yard line twice. They fumbled twice, only got 3 points out of those 2 trips.
Yeah.
Wasn't their cleanest game.
No.
But they did line up and run the ball well. Bryant did not throw for great yardage, but he threw for a high percentage. And then defensively, again, Florida State playing really with one hand behind its back. They could get nothing in the running game. The sacks, they had 5 sacks, Clemson did. It was total domination. You never, even when Florida State made the little bit of a run in the second half, you never really felt like Clemson was in danger of losing.
And in the South Carolina space, Will Muschamp gave proper credit to Florida. He definitely did, and I give a little bit of credit to Florida too, because they came out as a different team in the second half. That was not the team that lost to Georgia and Missouri that we saw in the second half. That was a team that came out and played with pride, because in the first half it looked like their defensive line was absolutely putrid. Mon Denson was breaking through holes like they were parted like the Red Sea, and they came out in the second half and they played better. But the thing that gets me more angry than anything is the fact that you have 469 yards of total offense and only 28 points. For that amount of production, you should have scored more, and a lot of that had to do with Jake Bentley's 3 interceptions, which were all his fault.
Well, hang on. All his fault?
They were all of them.
I thought maybe the first one.
The first one, he said was miscommunication with the wide receiver.
Well, when I talk about that, I mean, the wide receiver ran a route, and he threw another route. So whose fault was that? Who blew the play?
It's always on the quarterback.
Always on the quarterback.
It's not always on the quarterback. Sometimes the receiver runs the wrong route.
And he'll learn to look the safety off, because he looked right at Hayden Hurst in the corner of the end zone, never looked at the other side of the end zone to pull the safety over there. He could have had an open shot. But hats off to Hayden Hurst.
Right.
He was the one that poked the ball loose at the 1-yard line for the fumble. He was the one that caught that balloon that Bentley threw out of the end zone that he never should have thrown. And I think he used his pitcher's glove to catch it.
That was one too, where again, like you said, he was on the 1-yard line and threw it up for grabs. And even he admitted after the game, I shouldn't have thrown that football. And Muschamp even told him just the same. It's like there's so many decisions in his mind that are just so haphazard. And to me, it's like I want to believe in him, because his numbers are always better than what you see on the field, and it just doesn't always pass the eye test to me with him. I
think Muschamp made the comment about yesterday on his conference call. He made the comment about being robotic at quarterback, and sometimes Bentley is robotic, but then other times when he is freelancing and relying more on his athletic skills and his just natural instincts, that's when he makes his big plays.
Yes,
and the play out of the end zone, you're right. Maybe he shouldn't have thrown it. It turned out great. It was a heck of a play.
It was lucky.
It was a heck of a play. I mean, look, he threw the ball. Did he know where he was throwing it?
No.
It ended up,
I think,
in the hands of a
a
tight end, who made a great catch. But
in double coverage,
I thought the Gamecocks ran the ball well.
They did.
And if they run the ball like that against Clemson, then they'll have a chance. And now, look, what I'm talking about leading off the show is I know you've got these games in between, but if you want to go ahead and start looking ahead to Palmetto Bowl, you have our permission, because we're going to do that, because that's where the meat and potatoes is. 800-956-7266. Email talkback@sportstalksc.com. On Twitter @SportsTalkSC. We'll be right back.
Sports Talk is the sports talk show of Main Street, South Carolina. From the coast to the mountains, we cover it all.
Okay, it's Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network here on a maddening Monday after a crazy weekend. Who saw – I know a lot of us thought Auburn would beat Georgia, but not quite like that. A lot of us thought Miami would beat Notre Dame, but not quite like that. There were some real beatdowns. Really, the drama that we expected was not there. Alabama, Mississippi State had some drama. By and large, the big build-up games – there was not a lot there because one team was just so much better than the other.
I don't know if it was necessarily drama from the standpoint of exciting games, but there was drama to the point of the fact that there were seismic shifts, at least from the way the numbers looked. The fact that Miami put such a convincing output on Notre Dame, I think was something to behold. I think that the same thing going for Auburn with that seismic beatdown of Georgia the way it was. And some of these other matchups, too, with Mississippi State, Alabama, like you said, that probably took care of most of the drama for the evening. But the one thing that we will have is a very different-looking top four when it's unveiled by the committee tomorrow evening.
Yeah. And what you wanted to see is if Jake Fromm got put in a position where you have to win the football game, Georgia panicked, and they could not get it done. Without that vaunted running game and what Auburn was doing and everything they did quick, the misdirection plays just destroyed Georgia, and that's all Auburn needed.
All right, 800-956-7266 to your phone calls. We go in just a moment. A couple of lines are open if you want to join in. On our website, SportsTalkSC, our poll question of the week, what should be the Clemson-USC line? Clemson by 14 or more, Clemson by 7-13, a pick 'em. USC by 7 or more. 39, almost 40% have voted that Clemson should be a 7-13 point favorite. 26% say the Gamecocks should be favored by 7. 25% say the Tigers should be 2 touchdown picks or better. I'll say this, looking ahead to a couple of weeks, it's going to be a much better game than last year. There's no question about that. A couple of things. Number one, I think this USC team is a team that's got a lot of confidence. It's got playmakers. Clemson just can't come at Jake Bentley with the run and force his hand in. Come at Jake Bentley and the Gamecocks and shut down the run like they did last week. They've got weapons now that can hurt you. Defensively, South Carolina can do some good things. Playing at home, it will be a 7:30 kickoff. Those things are all in their favor.
Right.
That being said, right now Clemson, I think will still win the game, but I think it could. I put on Twitter today, what are you going to do, whether you're a Gamecock or a Tiger fan, whoever side you happen to root for, if it comes down to a field goal?
Look away.
Because, Clemson is 50% on field goals this year as a team, and the Gamecocks are about as bad.
Clemson and South Carolina actually forced their fans to watch the extra points, which normally you'd turn away. And that's the thing that really is scary. I talked to one of my Vegas wise guys. He said going into the week last week, going into the Florida State games, that the line, if it was played this past weekend, would be 13.5 in favor of Clemson. I think it'd probably be something similar, at least where it will open a week from now.
Well, what makes me nervous is Clemson's got sloppy with the football Saturday, unlike them, uncharacteristic of them.
So did Gamecocks. They threw 3 picks. Did they have a fumble?
They had a fumble on the
punt.
Seven total turnovers.
Yeah, it was a sloppy game. And the craziest, maybe, I don't know if it's the craziest play of the year, but certainly in the top 10.
The Bentley
pick fumble.
The pick fumble. That was
pick fumble return.
That was very
crazy.
It was very odd. I put forth on that game. That game was drunk, honestly. Yeah, it was very drunk.
Bill in Surfside, you're up first tonight here on Sports Talk. Good to have you with us.
Hey, Phil, it's Billy in Surfside.
Oh, hey, Billy, how you doing?
I saw you. And Phil, you don't do enough Facebook posting, which I don't too much unless it's about the children or something they got going on. But hey, Phil, I'll go ahead and call it. I'll go ahead and solve that issue from my wise guys out in the desert. Line will probably open up at 13.5, 14. And I actually told Ken Art a while ago that I'll bet the house on it. Because let me tell you something, Phil, and I'm asking you because, I mean, you're a very smart, very, very smart gentleman.
Right.
Do you really think that any line of scrimmage matches up well for the Gamecocks versus Clemson? Let's not fool ourselves. I think the Gamecocks will come out pumped, energetic, probably take a lead. But I think by the time it's said and done, I think it'll be anywhere from 14 to 21 point win from Clemson. Clemson's a business approach, and you said it as well. It's a business approach now. Clemson knows they've got Miami, which made a statement on Saturday night against Notre Dame. Very impressed. I still don't think they'll beat Clemson. I'm calling it. I'm calling this as well, Phil.
Mm-hmm.
I think Auburn's going to be your SEC champion. I went on the Bad Boys show, and I went on the national radio show, and I said it as well just to make a point. I really do think Auburn will end up in the Final Four because I think they will beat Alabama. Alabama is very, very suspect up the middle with 4 defensive starters being out. And I think Auburn on the Plains will handle Alabama, and I think they will beat Georgia in the SEC championship. Auburn will be a 2-loss team in the Final Four. Clemson, we know, as a fan base, I'm not worried. I think Clemson, number 2, number 3 seed. Bring on Oklahoma. Everybody's sniffing the jock strap right now at Oklahoma. The same old. When they face a good defensive line, still, and I'm not putting words in your mouth, but you know as well as I do, it's on the line of scrimmage. Kelly Bryant, KB, runs the ball very well. He's not Deshaun throwing the ball, threading the needle, but he's a great runner. He's a 6'4", borderline 4'5", 40 guy. Tavion Feast for Etion, great offensive line. I'll rest my case. You know exactly where I'm going. I think Clemson on his so-called rebuilding year, so-called, is making another title run. I'm just going to reiterate that. And I'm going to take your comments off the air. Clemson will be back in the Final Four for the 3rd year in a row. And Phil, love the show. And keep on doing what you're doing, my man.
We thank you. Now, I can't dispute anything that you're saying. Everything you're saying is possible. Clemson's line of scrimmage, when you line up against South Carolina, yeah, everybody's going to like Clemson's defensive line against most any offensive line it faces. Now, South Carolina's offensive line has gotten better. They're healthy now. Guys are playing at a pretty high level, I think. They continue to play almost penalty-free, only 3 penalties in this game against Florida. So they're one of the best teams in the country at not drawing penalties. So there are some good things there to talk about. But the matchup with Clemson's defensive front, and Clemson had to dig deep in this defensive roster against Florida State because of injuries. And you would hardly really notice it because the play was still very strong up front, very good at the linebacker spot. They had to shuffle some people around the secondary. Yeah, I would give Clemson the edge defensive line versus USC's offensive line. And then conversely, USC's defensive line against Clemson's offensive line, I see that as being almost a stalemate. I think USC's defensive line has come on.
I like what he said about Auburn, too. You could argue that Auburn is bringing a better team into this game than the one they brought into the game 4 years ago, which was the Kick-6 game. They're bringing a better team in this year. I don't even know if Alabama is as good as that team would have been that Auburn beat head-to-head.
Well, you know, the interesting thing is their fans feel that Clemson, no matter what happens, they have this feeling of winning. Alabama's been doing it a long – don't count out Alabama. They are very resourceful. And when you think they're dead, you know, it's just like a snake. You got to kill them. And so if you're Auburn, you got to have a 2-score lead going into that 4th quarter or Alabama will steal it.
Well, you know, South Carolina and Auburn, as they go into their respective rivalry games, are sort of in the same position. They've both been down. Now, Auburn's come back further than South Carolina has, nationally speaking, by virtue of that win over Georgia. But South Carolina and Auburn, as they look at their rivals, they're going to have to go and take it.
Yes.
Because their rivals are bad boys.
Right.
Their rivals are bad boys. They know who they are, and they know how they're supposed to be. I don't think South Carolina and Auburn know that yet. They can get there if they can go and take it from the baddest boy in the neighborhood, and they're going to have their chance in a couple of weeks. 800-956-7266, the number. More of your calls coming up.
Since I just enrolled or not, or
I think you do. I think it starts over with everybody.
okay.
Let me find my copy here. I think I deleted it.
He has to find his copy. Friday, 11/10.
Well, none of my deleted files are coming up. You want to print it out real quick? You print it out.
I need to.
Now my deleted files are not coming up. Oh, there we go.
You got it?
Well, I think I'll put it here a sec. You said Friday.
Friday.
Sunday, Saturday, Friday. There it is.
Okay.
Well, that's not it. That was something. Oh, here it is. You recut. We'll do this.
I literally just did a search for Molly, and that's how I got it.
Well, I got several Mollies. Here we go. Okay. You want to do it real quick?
I can do it real quick. Yeah, we got like 2 minutes.
This is 60-second, right?
Yeah.
Tell me when you're ready.
He is.
All right, here we go. Coming in 3, 2, 1. Before the buzzer sounds on another college football season, we're throwing a long pass towards our final Pigskin Preview Live events. I'm Phil Kornbluth.
And I'm Will Pelagic, and together we host Sports Talk. Come out and join us on Monday, November 20th at Casual Pint, 217 Saluda Springs Road in Lexington. The fun starts at 4 p.m. with 100.7 The Point. Kevin Cohen broadcasting live, followed by Sports Talk at 6 p.m.
We're going to be talking about one of the most anticipated games of the year, USC against Clemson. So join us on the 20th at Casual Pint in Lexington and enjoy craft beer by the pint.
And special thanks to our hosts, Casual Pint and Sports Talk affiliate 100.7 The Point, for bringing Pigskin Preview Live to Lexington to talk about the Palmetto Bowl.
We've enjoyed going on the road this season to talk college football, and we hope you can join us for our final Pigskin Preview Live event. For details, visit our website at SportsTalkSC.com. All right, welcome back into Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network, 800-956-7266, the number. Email talkback@sportstalksc.com, on Twitter @SportsTalkSC. Coming up, Zach Willis will be with us, 1st and 10 with Coach Zach. David Shelton will look back at another Friday night of high school football playoffs. Things are getting really interesting now. And no Mick Mixon tonight. He'll be a little busy. He's got the Panthers in action at home against Miami. Panthers are 9-point favorites against the Dolphins tonight in Charlotte. We'll have some recruiting coming up for you as well.
A couple big upsets in the high school playoffs last week. Canada going down?
Yeah, lost to Greenwood. Yeah, I mean, it's that time of the year now where the matches are pretty even. Impressed with Spring Valley going down to Conway, playing without Channing Tindall, who did not play because of an injury, and they still won. So it gets really, really dicey now the rest of the way. Let me update a couple of things. As we've mentioned, the USC-Clemson game will be a 7:30 kickoff, which is good. Love night games. The atmosphere should be great. It's going to give everybody a chance to get in the prime form for that one.
Plus, you're a night owl anyway. So
the ACC Rookie of the Week is Clemson running back Travis Etienne, who had a tremendous game against Florida State. South Atlantic Conference has named the entire Newberry defense as the Defensive Player of the Week after a shutout victory over Mars Hill. FCS coaches poll, Wofford is tied for 7th with North Carolina A&T. Furman cracks the top 25 at number 24. James Madison still is at number 1. Championship odds now, Alabama is 10-11. Oklahoma's 4-1. This is by Bovada. Clemson and Miami are 8-1. Auburn is 10-1. Georgia and Wisconsin, they are 12-1. Former Gamecock Devontae Holloman has been promoted to the new head coaching position, or to the head coaching position at Beaufort. He was the defensive coordinator. He replaces a former Tiger, Mark Clifford, who resigned after this season. The Eagles went 7-3 and made the playoffs this year. And let's see, did that. Clemson's soccer team, a number 8 national seed for the NCAA tournament. They play the winner of Mercer and Coastal Carolina in the second round on November 19th. Basketball, I think Presbyterian's in the field as well. Are they not?
I'm not sure.
I think they are. Double check that there, Willie P., but I think they are. And
NCAA men's soccer, you say?
Yeah. And in basketball tonight, USC is in action. They play their regular season home opener against Western Michigan. Both teams are 1-1. Western Michigan, a team that won its division last year, has a 7-footer, 4 starters back from last year, including a 7-foot center. So we'll see how the Gamecocks deal with that. Other college basketball tonight involving state teams. College of Charleston is at Wichita State. How about that matchup?
Very nice.
Greg Marshall and the Cougars. Yeah, Earl Grant and Greg Marshall. South Carolina State women are at Clemson, and the USC women are playing on the Deuce tonight at Maryland.
That's number 4 against number 20.
Presbyterian is in the field. They will play UNC Wilmington for a right to see North Carolina.
Excellent. Speaking of that, I don't know what the final score was, but you saw where number 1 Connecticut was playing number 10 Stanford yesterday. When I happened to turn it on, it was about a 50-point difference. Anybody know what it turned out to be? My point is, if that's number 10 and Connecticut is number 1, my goodness, the spread between those two teams, incredible. What was that final score?
78-53.
Oh, they closed it up. I'm serious. It was like 50-something to 15 or something when I tuned in. All right, back to the phones we go, 800-956-7266. We go to Dr. Tiger in Myrtle Beach. Am I right? Dr. Tiger, how are you?
Good evening, Phil. How you feeling?
We're good. We're good, thank you. How are you feeling?
Good. Great. So I ordered some tests, and the test results came back, and contrary to my HIPAA contractual agreement, I'm going to give you the results. And basically what it says is that in South Carolina, they're anemic. Their schedule's very anemic. If you look at the teams that they've played, I think Wofford's got more wins than any of them do. You got Arkansas, and remember, Arkansas just barely beat Coastal here a week ago. So one top off Wofford and South Carolina being maybe on the same lines. There's something like that possible. But you got Tennessee. We don't know how bad they are. You got Florida. They're really just a bad team. So you got Louisiana Tech. I think it was they played.
Yes.
You got a lot of bad teams that they padded their record with being kind of mediocre. I'm not saying they don't have a few playmakers, but you look at that schedule really hard, and it was a lot. Nobody's got 9. Nobody's got 8 wins. The best probably team they played other than NC State, which Clemson already beat.
Which begs the question, how in the world did you go up to Syracuse and lose?
Well, they did that last year, and everybody goes back to Kit. But, it's hard. The hard players say before, it's hard to win 10 games. It's hard to win 15 games and not lose one game. It's extremely hard for any team to do that, Alabama included. They lost the game last year, too. You know what I'm saying, to us. They've lost games before, even when they won the national championship. So it's hard to win every single weekend and that week out. You just have to win more than you lose and not win many. So I just think, I just don't think that along the lines of scrimmage that they're going to be able to stand up against Clemson's running game for 4 quarters, because we've developed not only have good lines of scrimmage, but we've developed an extremely deep backfield with running backs. Regardless of who it is, I don't think they can stand up against 4 really good running backs that can have a hole like Etienne and Feaster and even Adam Choice, just a sustained running attack. I don't think they've been able to do that against anybody all year. And I don't know if they'll do it against Walter. We'll find out, though. I'll let you guys follow it now.
Thank you.
I will say this about South Carolina's schedule. You can't blame them for the bottom half of the SEC East being absolute trash. I'm sorry. You can't blame them for Florida and Tennessee being bad. You can't blame them for Missouri being bad earlier in the year and then getting healthy on Florida and Tennessee and Idaho and UConn. You can't blame them for Arkansas being trash. I mean, you can't blame them for that. You can blame them for scheduling Louisiana Tech and only pulling that game out thanks to a Parker White field goal. You can blame them for that. But at the end of the day, you play who's on your schedule, and you take care of business with who's on your schedule. And they could come out against Clemson and look absolutely horrid. And I understand that people would maybe see that as a little bit of sourness at the end of a season that was otherwise a step forward for them. But this is the ultimate proving ground. That's why when you play this game, this is the ultimate proving ground. And one thing that South Carolina has done, despite the fact that they played down to their competition last week against Florida, they've also played up to competition that's better than them, judged by the fact that they are able to keep within 14 points of then ranked number 1 Georgia.
Sounds to me like from the Clemson fans we're hearing from thus far, they're going to base a lot of their hopes on beating South Carolina on the line of scrimmage, feeling like their defensive line will be too strong for the Gamecocks OL and their offensive line will be able to handle the Gamecocks defensive line. Again, I think South Carolina's defensive line has come a long way, is deeper, has become much improved. I think the development of Javon Kinlaw is a big load inside for them, has meant a lot. The improvement of Keir Thomas has given them a lot. Dante Sawyer will be healthy. That'll be a bonus on the outside there, plus the play of their linebackers, though I was surprised that Sky Moore, according to the post-game record, only had 1 tackle against Florida.
Yeah, they were running away from him. Again, a lot of the tackles were made either in the backfield by the linemen and also by the secondary. Brad Johnson also had a big day, and Eldridge Thompson also looked good. But here's the thing about South Carolina. I expect this to be a low-scoring game a week from Saturday between South Carolina and Clemson, because I think South Carolina's defensive line, like you said, has the ability to change line of scrimmage. We've seen Clemson's offensive line struggle this year at very, very many times. And it's not just the guys on the inside. We've seen Mitch Hyde struggle. We've seen guys on the outside on the right side struggle as well between Ankrum and Crowder. So it's not like Clemson is without its warts. And I think what Clemson's warts are, South Carolina can take advantage. Now, will South Carolina be able to score on Clemson's defense? I'm not necessarily sure, because they couldn't score on Florida's defense at times.
And it's also between the ears and in the chest. South Carolina went up to Clemson with no chance to win from the neck up and in the chest. They will see a team that has pride and confidence when they come to Williams-Brice Stadium.
Oh, yeah, it's a different team. It's an entirely different team. You know, a couple of years ago when Clemson made its first run to the finals, they barely got out of Columbia alive. And that was not a great USC team by any means.
And if Clemson misses as many opportunities as they have against Florida State and against NC State week before, they'll rue the day that they do that.
Okay, we'll be right back. More Sports Talk.
Now back to Sports Talk, South Carolina's most listened to sports talk show for more than 30 years.
Back we are, Sports Talk on this Monday night from downtown Columbia. Phil Kornblut, Will Pelagic, and the Professor Tom Hayes. If you'd like to join in on the fun and frivolity, 800-956-7266 is how you can dial us up tonight here on Sports Talk. Looking forward to a great 2 weeks ahead. Of course, Trump Kid Week next week with the holiday and all. So we want to cram in as much USC and Clemson talk as possible. Start taking your predictions on the game, your heroes of the game, kind of what you're expecting for the ebb and flow of the game. 7:30 a week from Saturday, Williams-Brice on ESPN. Should be electric. Should be electric. USC, if things go to pattern, should be an 8-win team, 8-3. Who would have thought that? Well, some of us thought the Gamecocks had a chance to win maybe 8. Raise your hand if you thought, oh, come on. Oh, put that hand down.
We both had 8. We both had them down for 8-4. We both had them down for 8-4.
I thought 9 was possible. I did not foresee the Kentucky loss.
I thought, yeah, that's what my point.
Play Kentucky today, and they probably beat them.
I thought the only game they got off schedule is we said they had to win their home games, which they could do,
and
they lost to Kentucky,
and they lost Debo in the game.
That put them off schedule. And if it's a lot of ifs though, and they should have won that Texas A&M.
Yeah, let's say if you're a USC fan, there's two games that you want back. You want the Kentucky game and you want the A&M game back. Which game do you want more back? I want the Kentucky game back more if I'm a USC fan because that one was in the balance.
That makes you the clear second-place team,
right?
Number one. It still doesn't help you with Georgia. Well, I take that back. If you had beaten Kentucky, now that Auburn has beaten Georgia, if Georgia were to lose to Kentucky this week, then you'd
be in the race.
You'd be in the race, absolutely. But anyway, South Carolina still has a lot to feel good about. The progress they are definitely making. I think this year further solidifies the belief of many, and should be the belief, that Will Muschamp has turned out to be the right hire for South Carolina, is doing things the right way, putting down roots. They've got somebody now who is putting down roots, who I think will be here for the long haul. I really do, because
this is his last job.
And I know this is business, and I know loyalty in a lot of cases both ways goes out the window. But if any head coach should be loyal to an athletic director and to a school, it's Muschamp to South Carolina, because they gave him a chance to bounce right back as a head coach after a year out. He should think about that should anybody else ever come calling. And, of course, Clemson, again, like we were talking earlier, this is their business time of the year. They know what it's all about, and they approach it in a very business-like manner, and they take care of their business. I still don't think we've seen Clemson at high gear, and I think when Travis Etienne becomes the primary ball carrier, you're going to see them at high gear. I've been waiting on Feaster and waiting on Feaster. I don't see it this year.
It's not happening with him.
Etienne gives it to you every carry.
I can't see why you can't have both of them on the field. Feaster in the slot, Etienne back there. That is a dangerous combination. It could be very explosive.
And I got a great name, a great nickname if you do that. Feaster or Famine. Huh?
No.
You know, Thunder, Lightning, Feaster or Famine?
No.
Okay.
Pass.
I like it. That's going to be, I'm going to brand them that. If nobody's done that, I usually think ahead of most people. Feaster or Famine, if they put them both in the backfield.
It's not good.
Back to the phones we go. Is this Richard?
Yes.
In Columbia. Hello, Richard. Welcome to Sports Talk.
Hey, good evening, guys. I want to cover a couple of real quick things. That way I don't take up too much time. First thing I want to say is I cannot believe that Dan Mullen ran 3 running plays and punted the ball back to Alabama the other night without even trying to win. It was like, let's don't even try to win. Let's just run 3 quick plays, punt it back to them, and watch them score and win. I'm going to move up past that because it just made me sick. Second quick thing was, you know, you can scrutinize the Carolina schedule versus the Clemson schedule, but if you look at it today, Louisville, 4 losses. Boston College, 5 losses. Florida State, 6 losses. If you stack it up pound for pound, Clemson has not played anybody either this year.
Other than Auburn. Auburn. You got to count Auburn.
Yeah, okay, yeah, we'll count Auburn. I mean, you got to give them credit for their wins, which they're impressive. But to sit and say that Carolina is just a bunch of mooks is kind of a slanted Clemson thing, because if you look at head-to-head teams who they played, Clemson didn't play world beaters.
and they didn't impress me that much. But anyway, I want to move on past it. I'll go ahead and be the first person to throw it out there. Carolina wins 27-24. Kelly Bryant gets out of the game in the second quarter, doesn't come back, and Clemson cannot manage to muster enough attack without a good quarterback in there. That's my game prediction. Write it on the chalkboard, 27-24.
Is that with a winning field goal by Mr. White in the final seconds?
I don't care if Will Muschamp has to blow a spitball through the upright.
That's good.
All right, 27-24. We're going to keep a list of the predictions. You got the first one on the books. Gamecocks 27-24.
Richard gets started early tonight, man.
I like that. Thank you very much.
I'll say this, and to Richard's point, yeah, South Carolina has 3 losses, but I don't think they got a loss as bad as losing to Syracuse.
I lost as bad as Syracuse. Well, Kentucky, that was at home. Remember, Clemson played half that game without their quarterback, too.
I don't care. They would have lost that game with the quarterback because the quarterback was playing lousy.
All right, let me do recruiting real quick, then we'll continue with calls. I want to get this in before the top of the hour, review things from the weekend very quickly. Of course, defensive end K.J. Henry of Clemens, North Carolina, visited USC over the weekend. He told us he had a great visit. He likes Muschamp. He said, quote, "The best relationship I have with a head coach is with him." End of the quote there. And he said they just continue to build on that. He says they would use him as the buck. He likes that. He likes the idea of playing with his hand in the dirt. He announces December 20th, still has a visit to Alabama to make. Of course, he's been to Clemson and Virginia Tech and Georgia as well. Not indicating a favorite right now, though. If you read, believe it or not, the USC websites are so Debbie Downer on the Gamecocks and KJ Henry. They must be all talking to the same Clemson fan because, they're writing that the Gamecocks have no chance with KJ Henry at this point, which I don't know. From what the kid's telling me in my one conversation with him yesterday, he seemed pretty excited about South Carolina and strongly considering them at this point, but we shall see. Defensive end Jarrett Jackson of West Palm Beach, Florida, was at USC for his official, still committed to Louisville, and will visit there and Pittsburgh and Florida State and Texas in the weeks to come. Really enjoyed his time at South Carolina. Impressed with what they did against Florida defensively. Likes the plan that they laid out for him as part of their defense. USC very much in the mix with him. He'll be an early enrollee. Defensive back J.C. Horn of Alpharetta, Georgia, is a Tennessee commit. He is not decommitting. He says, quote, "I'm still committed. Everything is still the same. I'm still committed right now. Nothing has changed." He did not go anywhere this past weekend. He might visit Tennessee this Saturday. He talked to Butch Jones on Sunday, who said, and he wished him the best. USC and Alabama will get officials. He's also looking at Clemson, Ohio State, and Tennessee for official visits. USC also had an official this weekend from defensive back Savion Smith, junior college cornerback out of Mississippi. He's not been available for comment. We know that Alabama has been one of his officials, plus he's looking hard at Mississippi and Mississippi State for possible officials. Among players making unofficials to USC Saturday, offensive lineman Dylan Wanham of Atlanta, 2019 defensive lineman Howard Lee of Baldwin, Florida, 2019 defensive back Quentin Newsom of Sewanee, Georgia, 2019 offensive lineman Jonathan Leach of Houston, Georgia, 2020 linebacker Antoine Sampaw, Woodbridge, Virginia, 2020 defensive back Miles Brooks, 2020 defensive back Fred Davis of Jacksonville, both picked up offers, 2020 running back Max McClendon, son of the former Gator running back Willie McClendon, and 2021 quarterback Ridge Jacobs, whose grandfather played at USC. They're also from Jacksonville. No officials for Clemson over the weekend. Among the top prospects in unofficially, defensive back Quindarius Monday of Atlanta, 2019 defensive end Curtis Fan of Twin Cities, Georgia, 2019 linebacker Drake Thomas of Wake Forest, North Carolina, Florida commit 2019 defensive lineman Jaquez Sorrells of Largo, Florida, Spring Valley 2019 defensive back receiver Jalen Geiger, 2019 athlete Anthony Wilson of Spring Valley, 2020 running back Kimani Vidal of Atlanta. Spring Valley linebacker Channing Tindall ended up not going to any game on Saturday. We'll give you more after the top of the hour break, and Coach Willis coming up. You ready?
You like a little coffee with your sugar.
All right, you ready? Y'all give me a few seconds of silence here so I can bang this out. All right, coming down. Coming down, down, down. Coming down, down. Let's see, in 3, 2, 1. USC and Clemson had several top prospects to make unofficial visits for their games this past Saturday. Among those at USC were offensive lineman Dylan Wanham of Atlanta, 2019 defensive lineman Howard Lee of Baldwin, Florida, 2019 defensive back Quentin Newsom of Sewanee, Georgia, and 2 2020 prospects from Jacksonville who picked up offers, defensive back Miles Brooks and defensive back Fred Davis. At Clemson, some of the top visitors, defensive back Quindarius Monday of Atlanta, 2019 defensive end Curtis Fan of Twin Cities, Georgia, and 2019 linebacker Drake Thomas of Wake Forest, North Carolina. In basketball, 6'3" point guard Trey McGowans of Pendleton made his official visit to Clemson over the weekend. He's trying to decide if he wants to reclassify to the 2018 class or stick with the 2019 plan. Phil Kornblut, South Carolina, Radio Network Sports. All right, here we go in 3, 2, 1. Among the top prospects at USC for Saturday's game with Florida, uncommitted offensive lineman Dylan Wanham of Atlanta. Also, a couple of players from Jacksonville, Florida in the 2020 class, and they picked up offers. Defensive back Miles Brooks and defensive back Fred Davis. Among the top players at Clemson for the game against Florida State, defensive back Quindarius Monday of Atlanta, a player the Tigers are trying to turn from Auburn. In basketball, 6'3" point guard Trey McGowans, the Pendleton native who attends Hargrave Prep in Virginia, made his official visit to Clemson over the weekend. He's trying to decide if he wants to return to the 2018 class and sign now or stay in the 2019 class. Phil Kornblut, South Carolina, Radio Network Sports.
Round 2 of Sports Talk up next with your hosts Phil Kornbluth, Will Pelagic, and the Professor Tom Hayes. Don't leave us hanging. Join the show, 800-956-7266.
Back we are, Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network on a very busy Monday night. Good to have you with us. Want to remind you, our good friends at South Carolina Electric Cooperative, they are really getting geared up for the annual North-South Touchstone Energy Cooperatives Bowl, December 9th in Myrtle Beach. A couple of things to tell you about. Tickets are still on sale through the website, touchstoneenergybowl.com. They're only $15 until November 24th. So grab those while they're $5 off the regular price. Plus, their magazine, SC Living, is doing a contest to give away tickets to the game, and the winner gets 2 tickets, a $100 Visa gift card, and free Touchstone Energy merchandise. So go to the magazine website, scliving.coop, COOP, and you can find that information. You can register. You can win some great stuff. December 1st is the deadline to enter, so get involved with that pronto. One more recruiting note I wanted to mention, or a couple of recruiting notes I wanted to mention. Defensive back Devod Wilson of Miami will take an official to Alabama this weekend. He's been to USC. He's a Florida commit, and one-time USC target, defensive end Joe Bullatapelli of Wake Forest, North Carolina, committed to NC State. And in basketball, 6'3", Trey McGowan took his official to Clemson over the weekend. Everything looked great. He likes what he saw from the Tigers. He saw him play 2 games. He likes the pace they're playing, the fact that they're running more. Now he has to decide if he wants to return to the 2018 class. Academically, he can do this. He can return to the 2018 class. And then if he wants to sign early or just commit and sign in the spring with Clemson, or wait until the 2019 class and continue with the recruiting process. All that is up in the air. And of course, the early signing period ends on Wednesday. And, of course, Zion Williamson did not show up at Clemson either Friday or Saturday, but he was at Wofford yesterday, sitting in the stands, watching the Terriers play their game. All right, there you go with recruiting. Remember to check it on our website, SportsTalkSC.com. On Twitter, use the hashtag STRecruiting. Let's get to 1st and 10. First up of the week, 10 minutes on the Gamecocks, 10 minutes on the Tigers with Zach Willis. Good evening, Coach.
How you guys doing?
We are doing wonderful. How are you? Did you have a good weekend?
I couldn't be any better.
Terrific, terrific. Well, let's get to the Tigers and talk about Kelly Bryant and the single wing. Very effective. And is this what Clemson is going to try and do moving forward to win another national championship?
You know, I think them do this before. They did it before they played Louisville, and then opened the playbook up and lit the scoreboard up. So the thing that makes Clemson dangerous is they can do both. It depends on what they feel like they need to do. And it makes them really great, is they can kind of take it either way they need to go. As long as Kelly Bryant's healthy, I think they're very, very dangerous, and I think you could see you're going to see 1 or 2 attacks. Usually they don't differentiate. Once they decide to ground and pound, the single wings, that's really what it is. Mm-hmm. They're going to do that, or they'll open it up like they did against Louisville and a few other teams and outscore you. Really easy to do when you got that front 7 they got.
ETN, the running back, the freshman of the week in the ACC, runs hard, runs fast. Are they going to turn him loose at some point and give him the ball the majority of the time, or do you continue to expect a running back by committee situation there?
I don't think they're going to change what they're doing. ETN still has some breakdowns in his blocking assignments on pass pro. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's a true freshman, and he's not ready physically, I don't think, to carry as much as you want to feature back to doing that offense. And the other 2 kids are just too impressive and too good to sit on the bench. You can really wear a defense down when you throw Bryant in there, all 6'4", 220, however many pounds he is of him. It wears people down physically, and I think they're going to stick with what they're doing.
Would you be worried, Zach, about the fact that Bryant's passing numbers, at least from a yardage standpoint, have been down over the last couple of weeks? Because in my mind, I don't know if you could put him in a situation where he has to throw it to win the football game. I mean, especially if you get a situation where the run game probably isn't as strong. Again, I don't know if it necessarily will bother them the next 2 weeks, but you worry about Miami and beyond.
Yes, I think so. I think it's the one thing I had down here was the overthrow to Hunter Renfro, followed by the fumble with 6:46 to go in the fourth quarter on the next series. I thought were critical. I was concerned about that. The thing about Clemson is they can continue to do that because they have probably the best sudden change defense, and that's defense after something catastrophic's happened offensively, a big play, a turn, sudden play defense I may have ever witnessed myself as a coach. And that's what allows him to let Kelly Bryant make these mistakes. But sooner or later, you got to wonder if it won't come back to haunt him if he doesn't step his game up just a little bit in those key moments.
A great eraser on the pencil is a great defense. The front seven for Clemson always stout, Zach. Any type of changes that Brent Venables has had to make to compensate what has been a banged-up secondary?
Well, they're banged up, and I think their scheme. I don't always, after the Syracuse game, the trips formation, 3 wide receivers to one side, 1 to the backside, is still dogging them. It bothers them. They gave up some huge pass plays the other night. Now, we know they've got major injuries. They need to get well to be as good as they need to be. Their front seven absolutely punished Florida State from that game. I felt sorry for the quarterback. I'm not being funny here. That kid took a beating.
He did.
But on the back end, they've got some liabilities there. Most of it's due to injury, but their scheme is still a little bit lacking because they take risks there that I wouldn't necessarily take if I had that pass rush.
You talk about their defense, and they did have to go deep into their roster on the defensive side, so to speak. J.D. Davis playing a lot at linebacker, Kayvon Wallace a lot at safety, and on and on through their defense. Did you see, in terms of just the overall defensive play, front seven or front six aside, I mean, because we saw Niles Pinckney go in and do his thing and Albert Huggins, did you see much of a drop-off as an overall defensive unit?
Of 1 or 2 plays here or there, I haven't seen anything that concerned me majorly since the Syracuse debacle. And they cleaned that up, and that was with Mark Fields. So they had to coach him up and get them straight. As long as they'll float their safeties over the top of a single corner, when they split that guy out one-on-one, no matter what formation, and give them a little bit of help, I think they're fine because I don't think there's too many people that can block their front 6 or 7 depending on what they're running. They're dominant, and I mean dominant with a capital D there.
Yeah.
And they're physical, man. I mean, they're like men playing with boys. They were killing Florida State. And Florida State is inexperienced quarterback, but they're still a very talented football team. Let's not forget that.
Yeah.
It's hard not to look ahead to a week from Saturday. Is there an area going into the Palmetto Bowl where you feel like South Carolina could have an advantage against Clemson?
Maybe they're water boy. I don't know. I mean, look. You want honesty? I mean,
we can handle the truth.
Tight end. South Carolina's got a better tight end by far.
Yeah. Yeah, Hayden Hurst, he had a heck of a game against Florida.
That cat's a stud. And I'll say this: when Jake Bentley's on his game and doing his thing, he can stalemate that quarterback position. But he's got to up his game. He can't get too emotional. Now we're getting way ahead here.
No, we're not. we're already talking about it. Don't worry, we're already talking about it.
Players are the only ones who can't look ahead, Zach.
Well, when do folks in South Carolina not look ahead to this game? Like the minute it's over, they're looking ahead to next year anyway. So
yeah.
Whatever.
Do you think? All right, we'll come back. We're going to hit a break here, so we'll continue. We'll talk about the Gamecocks here after the break, and then talk more about the Palmetto Bowl. 1st and 10 with Zach Willis here on Sports Talk, and we will continue in a moment. USC women out to a comfortable margin.
19-7.
Yeah, a comfortable margin against the Terps up at College Park. So they're doing their thing here early on, and we'll be right back.
This is the place to talk Tigers, Gamecocks, and more. Sports talk across the state on the South Carolina Radio Network.
Okay, we're back. Sports Talk from downtown Columbia, your favorite, most important 2 hours of every day. You think checking your portfolio daily is the most important thing you do all day? No, sir. Tuning into Sports Talk and hearing what we have to say trumps all that. And when we add people like the coach, Zach Willis, to the program for 1st and 10 on the Gamecocks now, you can't beat it. So the Gamecocks, in a lot of ways, they look very good against Florida. A lot of ways, they looked kind of sloppy. A game that they maybe should have put 35, 42 points on the board, settled for 28. But they got the win, Zach, and you've been around long enough to know anytime South Carolina can beat a Florida, can beat a Tennessee, when they can beat a Georgia, they don't worry about what the score looks like. They're just happy to get that win.
Yeah, I mean, Phil, that's the first thing. Before we even dive into it, we all need to remember that. And the fact that the state of South Carolina went 2-0 against the state of Florida last Saturday, let's remember that day. Hopefully they'll capitalize on recruiting on those wins, too.
Well, they had a nice crowd of recruits in. They had 3 guys they really want in for official visits. Clemson did not have any officials. They're having a bunch this coming weekend. What did you take from watching the game? In your mind, the good and the bad, what stood out as the good, what stood out as the bad?
Well, the good, Hayden Hurst, Carolina's defense, that was the good that I saw. The bad was Florida was probably as bad a major college football team from an organizational standpoint, starting drives with illegal participation penalties, having too many men on the field, coming off the bench.
Twice.
South Carolina will play a better coach, probably better opponent this coming Saturday in Wofford than they played last Saturday. And the thing that worried me was they let Florida hang around, as god-awful as Florida was, but they did win. I'm coming at it from a coaching perspective. You know, we went right back to what Will's talked about all season. 2 red zone interceptions. It's the same play concept. The wheel route to the tight end, and we throw 2 picks there, guys. That's unacceptable.
What is it? What is it about Jake Bentley's game that, to me, doesn't pass the eye test? What is it to you that doesn't pass the eye test about his game?
It's the emotional content. You know, when Bobby, you watch this. When his dad walks over and talks to him, he settles down and plays. Now, I'm watching from TV. You guys, I probably need to come down there and watch one from the box to see it for sure. That's what it looks like to me. He just needs somebody that can settle him down emotionally. He's a tremendous competitor. He is already a very good college quarterback. Going to be a great one, I believe. I'm a big fan of his, but it's his own youthfulness and his competitiveness. It's good problems to have, Will, but you got to have a coach to settle him down and keep him calm. And if that needs to be dad, that's fine. That should be fine with anybody. Let him do what he's got to do. Because Bobby's a good coach and he can get that done for them. They got to let him do it. That's my honest opinion.
You know, it's pretty evident that Muschamp is building in the right direction. Defense does a lot of really good things. They play hard. They're playing fast. They're playing with some reckless abandon out there. They make plays on defense. Now, they get beat. Everybody gets beat on defense these days. But, you know, they have mostly pretty good moments out there. My question is, looking ahead to 2018 with them, if they're going to take that next big step and win the East with a junior quarterback, all that other personnel returning around him on the offensive side and the bulk of the defense returning, does he need to make a change at offensive coordinator? Should he take Bobby Bentley and make him quarterback coach and offensive coordinator? Maybe just flip Kurt Roper and Bobby Bentley in positions.
Well, I've been around. I don't know Kurt Roper. I wouldn't know him if I passed him in the mall down there. You know, I wouldn't know him.
Neither would we.
But I know what I see. I would. Play design. You know, I don't get it. The big one to me was third quarter up 8 points. You're on there 35. It's forced down in a long one, and you run a play that you hadn't run all year. The tailback depth was off. Everything was wrong about that play design. Bobby Bentley is a technician. Bobby Bentley is a perfectionist on offense. I would also say that Muschamp needs to learn a little offense himself. Same thing happened at Florida. Great defense, no offense. And see, right now they're playing their SEC opponent's record 4-23. That'll never happen again, Phil. You know it. I know it. Pro knows it. Will knows it.
Well, here's my point. Here's my point. I mean, as a head coach, you know, sometimes you have to make the uncomfortable decision to improve your program. And if there's an area that's holding you back from being great, you have to make that call. And I go back to Dabo Swinney when he fired Kevin Steele. For the most part, Kevin Steele was an outstanding defensive coordinator. Now, he got burned by West Virginia in that bowl game, and people never let him forget it. But by and large, he was pretty good as defensive coordinator, and he's proving it again at Auburn. But he fired him, and he went out and got a guy who's probably the best defensive coordinator in the country.
Oh, yeah.
Is that what Muschamp must do to take his offense to a championship level?
We're laying it down tonight, Phil. I'll just say this. We don't know the dynamics but whoever's responsible for what's going on needs to get it together or changes need to be made. Now, we don't know what Roper's got the title, and he obviously gets most of the attention. So I'm looking for something. We're having some long heart-to-heart meetings about this because Dabo also changed offensive coordinators and went out and got a guy named Chad Morris who didn't do too bad either.
Yeah. But he didn't like the guy. He didn't like the guy he inherited, so he got rid of him pronto.
Well, here's my problem, guys. 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, you can't get a yard. That happened twice this year. It happened in the Kentucky game, and it happened in the Florida game. That's not on the coordinator. That's on the guys on the field. No.
But what I was looking at was Mon Denson looked like he could. He's always stuck it up in there. That's why I thought he should get more snaps. And for whatever reason, he optioned to the right instead of going just straight up the middle. I thought he had the first down. I've never seen Mon do that.
He had it on the left. There was a big hole he just scored. The problem with the play design, if they run that little G play with the guard pulling that Will always talks about, it's a touchdown. Mm-hmm. And so we don't know. The line steps were bad. The tailback should have been at 7 yards and not 5.5. These are little coaching points that you learn in high school. You come off the ball low and hard. They went sideways. You know, no fullback in front of him. You know, the tight ends are soft. They're great pass receivers, poor blockers. You got to get that coordinated. You got to have we call it elephant or jumbo practice. Mm-hmm. Watch Alabama, watch Auburn, watch Georgia. They're going to load up with big bodies and pound you right there. And you got to give kids a chance to be successful because Florida packed that box with almost 9 guys, including their safety.
I don't understand some of the play calling where you're in the spread and you're facing 3rd and 4th and short and you try to run it up in there with no lead blockers.
And no play action either on that either?
Let me tell you what, man. Football comes down. You got to win the short yards. You watch Clemson. They have a package. They got power backs. They're not soft. Alabama, obviously, we know they're not soft. Clemson spread. But they're a dang physical team, and they can line up in any formation they need to and beat you physically right up the middle. And that's what you have to do to win in the SEC, the ACC. Any good football team can get physical when it has to and pound you. And that's where South Carolina's lacking a little bit right now. And they haven't been challenged. And when they have been challenged, they've been beaten physically. And I think that's what we're all getting at here is Florida's horrible.
Yeah.
Horrible. I mean, I couldn't believe how bad they were. My mouth was hanging out because I got visions. You know,
worst team I've seen in person this year.
Well, you know, Coach, I was just thinking that a lot of times it's timing and maturity because we all even saw Clemson last year have problems in short yardage that we see this year they've learned from.
Hey, Zach. Last thought here. We got to let you go. Between them, the two teams have missed 19 field goals this year. You think it'll come down to a field goal?
Let me tell you what, if it comes down to field goal in the Palmetto Bowl, South Carolina's got a shot. If they can keep it that close, Phil, anything can happen in that ball game. The records go out the window, but they've got to keep it close to the 4th quarter. I will make that my first statement on that game.
We'll talk more next week. Thank you, my friend. Great job.
You got it.
Take care. Zach Willis, 1st and 10 on the Tigers, 1st and 10 on the Gamecocks. Back in a moment. right, we are back. Will's gone. He couldn't take it anymore. He's gone over to the CLA, set up to cover USC and Western Michigan. The USC women, it's gotten a little tighter, 34-24 over Maryland in the first half. Time for some high school football talk. And after David Shelton, we'll get back to your phone calls. High School Report brought to you by Farm Bureau Insurance. With new auto insurance rates from Farm Bureau Insurance, you could be saving a whole lot of money. Even if you received a quote before, rates are now more competitive than ever, so get a no-obligation quote today at favrates.com. We welcome in the guy known far as wide as BIB, Bib, Best in Business, Mr. David Shelton.
Hey, Phil. How are you?
How you doing, my man?
Doing good. Doing good.
Good to have you with us. So what did you think about this past Friday? A couple of upsets here and there, but for the most part, everything's gone to form so far in the playoffs.
Yeah, I think the two biggest games that stand out was Greenwood beating TL Hanna, ending their perfect season, and really, I won't say a couple weeks ago, but a month or so ago, they got hammered by TL Hanna hammered Greenwood, and Greenwood got them back on Friday night. So that was that was an eye opener because I thought we had a Hanna versus Gaffney matchup looming, a rematch of that game. And then the other one was just Lower Richland, unbelievable, comeback against Myrtle Beach, down, not really having any success offensively. And then they start slinging 70-yard bombs, and they end a win on a Hail Mary at the buzzer. Just an incredible run by Lower Richland. And I tell you, a lot of people, keep saying, oh, they're going to lose. But sometimes when the horseshoe fits, you wear it. And they got to go to Hartsville, and that's going to be a heck of a challenge for them to defend that offense. But I would not pick against those cats now. I mean, what they did the other night was pretty remarkable.
We talked about this Friday night, too. Another team like that who's sort of been, at least in our conversations, you don't really think about them too much until lately since they've been in the playoffs. But Hillcrest, here they are again. A couple of years ago, they won the state championship in Columbia, if I'm not mistaken. They beat Dutch Fork soundly in that game, and now they're right back in the hunt once again. What about this Hillcrest team? What's made them so special this year?
Well, they when they have a good quarterback, they're really good. And they had Colin Snead that year. They won the state title, and then they struggled at that position until this year. Will Watts has done a very good job with that offense, completing a high percentage of his passes. They score a ton of points, and they just get after you on defense. No major prospects anywhere on the field. They just play hard, and that's a credit to Greg Porter and his staff and what they do there. I mean, Greg Porter is a guy whose name has been mentioned at some other schools in the past, even Somerville when John McKissick retired. So I think what Greg is doing is proving that he can win with less than marquee Division I talent, and it's going to make him a name. These jobs coming open, he's going to be a name to watch.
We talked Friday night about the 3A matchup this Friday, Gilbert and Dillon, and you hinted that possibly Gilbert has a little something for Dillon.
Yeah, because Gilbert can score, they do a great job. They're very balanced offensively, and they can score a lot of points. They got a good receiver. They got a good running back. Quarterback's very solid. Certainly, they can put some points on Dillon, and they're going to have to because Dillon's a really good defensive team, and Dillon's going to try to grind the ball out and sling it around a little bit, but more or less try to control the tempo of the game. And but yeah, I would say Gilbert at home, it's clearly, I would say, the biggest game Gilbert's ever hosted. Maybe they've hosted some rivals in the past, but to be this deep into the playoffs and to be playing a team that's trying to win their 5th consecutive lower state championship, that would be a huge win for Gilbert. It's clearly the biggest game they've hosted in a long, long, long time.
All right, let's go back to 5A. Couple of teams down your way, Somerville, Fort Dorchester, each one involved with teams from the Midlands, Somerville, Dutch Fork, Spring Valley, Fort Dorchester. So it's Midlands football against Low Country football on that side of the bracket. How do you see it playing out?
Well, I think I think it'll be a split. I think Dutch Forks got a little bit too much for Somerville, especially with Somerville's quarterback Jonathan Bennett probably not going to play. Was hurt the other night, and it was a knee, and I just don't think he's going to play. And that's gonna hinder them a little bit. They'll play good defense, and they'll do a good job of trying to keep themselves in the game. But I just think Dutch Fork's the better team. And the same thing with Spring Valley and Fort Dorchester. Certainly, Spring Valley's capable of beating Fort Dorchester, but nobody has, and there's a reason, because they're very good. So Spring Valley's going to have to come down to North Charleston and play flawless football, control the clock, and find a way to keep that game close in the fourth quarter, which nobody's been able to do. So if they can, they've got a shot because they do some good things offensively. But again, you got to score some points too.
Yeah, and they need a healthy Channing Tindall on defense to help them up against Joyner there.
That would certainly help, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, David, as we sit here tonight, if my math is right, in high school football in South Carolina, we've got exactly 50 teams still playing between the high school league and SCISA, with the SCISA 5 championship games coming up this weekend.
Yep, that's right. I mean,
right?
we're getting down to it now. I mean, it's pretty much crunch time the next couple of weeks. This is the most fun that we have during any football season, because every team now, no matter their record, they're good because they're this far. So it gets really interesting.
So the question becomes, who do you like in the championship game, 8-man football, Division II? Everybody in South Carolina wants to know who you like in that game. That will be between Andrew Jackson Academy and Jefferson Davis Academy, a couple of good old Confederate guys there. I'm surprised. I imagine there'll be a bunch of people outside protesting, but they're going to be playing.
Yep, and I would say as a defending champion, I think Andrew Jackson will win. They did play earlier this year, and it was a pretty good game. Jefferson Davis is certainly capable of winning this game, but when you go with a 3-time state champion, I think you're taking the safe route.
Yeah, SCISA's got championship games Friday, the 8-man games. The other one, the Division I, is Wardlaw Academy against Northside. That's on Friday at Calhoun Academy. And then Saturday, 8-man Division II. And then Saturday at Benedict, Dillon Christian against PD in 1A, First Baptist against Trinity Burns in 2A, Hammond and Lawrence Manning in 3A. Anything about those games stand out to you?
Well, I think First Baptist in 2A is certainly one of the most explosive offensive teams that SCISA has seen in a while. I think Trinity Burns making their first appearance may have a little trouble in that one, but I like that Hammond-Lawrence Manning rematch. I mean, I know Hammond beat them by 2 touchdowns earlier in the year, but Lawrence Manning came back and beat Ben Lippin last week, so I think they're playing with a lot of confidence. But, what is this, like the 11th out of 12 years that Hammond's been in the final?
Yeah.
They're going for their 9th title. You got to go with them. I mean, it'd be an upset for them not to win it.
All right, one more question. We did touch on 4A with Lower Richland, Hartsville, but in the upper state, Greenville, Greer, South Point, East Side, man, you got some heavy offense involved in those 2 games.
You absolutely do, and I tell you, it would not. If I had to pick, I would say South Point and Greer will win those games. Which would set up a really good upper state final, because Greer is quietly, and I do mean quietly, just put together an unbelievable season. Offense, defense, they've got a quarterback, they've got a good running game, they play great defense. They beat Greenville earlier this year, so I would imagine they'll beat them again.
Okay, David, we thank you, man. Have a great week. You can read David's stuff at thepostingcourier.com as well as the High School Sports Report. And we will hear from him again on Friday, previewing the games and, of course, in our scoreboard shows Friday night. Thank you, David Shelton, best in business is what we call him here on Sports Talk. We'll come back and get back to your phone calls here in just a moment. USC women still up on Maryland. It's 42-30 late in the first half.
These guys, they never sleep. Check them out on the web at SportsTalkSC.com. Now, more of Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network.
South game, the Touchstone Energy Bowl, South Carolina Electric Cooperatives. Order the tickets online at touchstoneenergybowl.com. $15, and I encourage you to do so. Support the game. It's at the beautiful refurbished football stadium in Myrtle Beach, and just terrific in recent years. I'm expecting that we'll have great weather once again. It's always an exciting game with a lot of turnovers, sometimes a lot of big plays. Buy the tickets and support the players, and also support the Coaches Association, because the money goes to scholarships for the children of coaches and things like that. Also, South Carolina Electric Cooperatives magazine, SC Living, there is a contest to give away tickets to the game. The winner not only gets 2 tickets, but a $100 Visa gift card and free Touchstone Energy merchandise. So get to their website, scliving.coop/football. We'll probably take you right to it. scliving.coop/football. That to buy the tickets and also to register for the giveaway. The deadline to register is December 1st. All right. Let's get back to your phone calls. 800-956-7266. We go to Joseph in Charleston. Next up with us. Hello, Joseph.
How y'all guys doing tonight?
Doing great.
I'm glad to hear that. I'm long time listener, first time caller. I had to call when I heard all these Clemson fans calling. I love the overconfidence of them. Like I love how Muschamp has turned this program around in just 2 years. I mean, we're real thin on defense, and we're playing tough. Like that Georgia game, I kind of knew it going in. I was like, I knew they weren't going to blow us out the water the way they did. I give Kentucky a lot more credit than a lot of people do. I mean, they played Florida tough. Back when Florida actually still had 90% of their team before they lost to everybody, and I still say they should have won that game. It's like a controversial call towards the end of that game. I think Jake Bentley's going to play a heck of a game next weekend. I think our defense is going to play the way they've been playing all year, and I think we're going to walk out of winning with Bryce and shock the world. I just don't think I think Clemson's going to come into this game thinking they're just going to run right over us like they did last year.
What's the score going to be?
I think it's going to be a close score. I think it's probably going to be 35-28 Gamecocks.
35-20. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think the offense is going to finally – Jake Bentley's not going to throw interceptions like he did before. I think his dad's going to sit him down and talk to him about the importance of this game. I think he's going to stay a little bit more focused, realize that this team's defense is a little bit better than what he played against Florida and all that. And I think with Hayden Hurst, and I think Ortrell's got a lot to prove, because Clemson didn't even come to the party until late, and that kid's his family's he's a Clemson legacy. His entire family went to Clemson.
Mm-hmm.
And Shi Smith, some of the catches he's made, and I mean, the catcher's Hayden Hurst, man. I don't think anybody on Clemson's defense can cover Hayden Hurst one-on-one. I just have a good feeling about this year. Better feeling than I've had in quite a few years as a Gamecock fan.
All right. Thank you very much. So, 35-28, USC. We've had USC picked 27-24. Let's go to, I doubt this caller will agree with any of that. Stan, the Tiger Man over in Aiken. What you got?
Thank you for taking my call, buddy. I've been patiently waiting. We got it going on. It's Tiger time. It's crunch time. And I'm going to first give you a little terminology from the pastor, Payne, that seemed to never give us any, good word. But Tennessee and Florida and the Razorbacks, to me, are nothing like the teams that normally are in the past. And knowing as much as you've been watching it and me, and not trying to take away from Carolina, but all three of those really look right sorry to me.
Mm-hmm.
And the Carolina fan that called in a good many calls ago made out like that Clemson hadn't played nobody. That's a bunch of hogwash. Virginia Tech, Auburn, and Louisville were ranked either 14th or higher. Corn?
Yes, exactly right. At
That's
that time,
exactly right.
at
Well,
that
anyway,
time, and I do
my-
have
my-
a problem. Let me say this. I see you got to judge opponent by where they are when you play them. I think.
Right.
People want to say, well, look at what's happened now. Look what's happened to Auburn now, or I'm sorry, look what's happened to Louisville now. Look what's happened to Kentucky now, whatever the case may be. But when you play them, they're at that level and you beat them at that level. Then what happens after you leave them is not your concern. So, when South Carolina, let me think here for a second. When South Carolina, I'm trying to think of a good one. When they beat NC State, that's a good win for South Carolina. NC State was at the top of its game, brand new season, a lot of enthusiasm. South Carolina took it right to them and booyah. And same thing when Clemson beat Louisville. When they beat Louisville on the road, at that time, Louisville had not yet come apart like they did as the season progressed. That's how I look at it.
But
people want to take away from your win that particular time early in the year and say because a team did not play well down the stretch after that your win wasn't as valuable. I don't see it that way.
No, but you also have to look at this. Stidham is not the quarterback he was against Clemson because he didn't really have the system yet. But you got to give Clemson their due because of where Auburn is sitting now. And if anybody gave any juice to Clemson's push to stay in the 4 was Auburn's win against Alabama.
Well,
Auburn's win against Georgia.
Corn and the professor, I will say this. It's one down in the trenches, and I don't think Carolina's seeding none like our front 4-5. And I'm going to put a score up there, 38-17, Tiger.
38-17, Tiger.
38-17, yes, sir.
I will remind you of this. They do know because they played them last year, and we saw what happened. So that's where it's going to be interesting, Corn, because obviously if you're Will Muschamp, you're going to say, look, they got a great defensive line, but guess what? We only have to play them for 60 minutes.
Yeah, different South Carolina team, though. More confidence. Playing at home, of course, will be to South Carolina's advantage. They got swagger now. I think they feel good about themselves. They didn't have a good frame of mind, I don't think, going into Clemson last year. Plus, Clemson was playing great football. I mean, Clemson was just a grinder. And South Carolina was lost. They had, and then they go in there and they decide to have Jake Bentley come to the sideline to get every play call. Remember that? Had him trot over there and then trot back out. So now you're down to like 10, 15 seconds on the play clock. They said they were doing that because to kind of keep him calmed down and the noise and all that. Well, he should be more mature now. He's a full year into it, and he needs to probably play with a little more calmness and overly excited about things. I think it hurts his game. Real quick, let's go to Danny in Florence. Hello, Danny. How are you?
Hey, Phil. Real quick, if you'll indulge me, I have a football question and a basketball question.
Sure.
Okay, the football question is, what do you think about these Carolina fans that's posting on Facebook now that they should be in the Final Four? And the basketball question is, what do you think about number 1 and number 2 tomorrow night?
Well, I think Clemson fans are right on in saying they should be in the Final Four. I mean, I think I think
Carolina fans are saying they should be in the Final Four.
You're saying Clemson fans. I'm sorry, did I misunderstand you? Say it one more time.
I said, what do you think about the Carolina fans posting on Facebook that they should be in the Final Four?
That South Carolina should be in the Final Four?
Right.
The Final Four, what, a football?
You mean Final Four football?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're just pulling your leg. I mean, come on. They're having some fun. And have we got Duke and Michigan State tomorrow night?
Yep.
Is that right?
Yep.
Too early.
This is a matchup of two great AAU teams, teams that have collected some of the best high school talent from across the country, traveling AAU teams. That's what they are. It should be a dandy. It should be a dandy. That's one of those early season college basketball games that you should be looking forward to. I don't know who's going to win.
No.
Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. When they match up in March, then I'll care.
There you go. And then, of course, they matched up against a team they didn't know was that tough in South Carolina, and they got smacked.
What happened to them?
Duke got smacked.
I think that happened. Hey, thanks for being with us. Have a great night. See you tomorrow.